I think it's a little bit of each of those elements, but the underlying friction, I would say, is really in the energy companies asking themselves, what do we want to be or what role do we want to play in this particular market segment, right? So, in the past year, as an example, I've seen energy companies shift from considerable amount of positions from indicating at the very onset, hey, we will just provide the natural gas and be hands off, right, to data centers in particular to actually then questioning the idea of whether or not they require data centers to even be in metropolitan locations. Why can't a data center be in a location, cheap real estate wise, closest to the natural gas source, right? On over to, hey, by the way, we've also got produced water. We also know a thing or two about turbines and reciprocating engines. We've worked with EPC companies. We can actually build a shell, right? So these pivots, every time they change position in the past year, sometimes every a couple months, actually indicate an entire new capital expense, but also a new opportunity. So I think the friction really is in understanding what role they want to play. I think there's several roles that we do play. Initially, at the onset, it's usually in an advisory capacity. And in such a role, we are actually helping them understand that particular question. What role should they play? What are the revenue generating opportunities? At what point will they have to also start thinking about resources or capabilities that they may not necessarily have? Right, in the context of some companies saying, you know what, hey, we can actually go all the way to um, be a landlord over tenants within the data center space. Yeah, it's an entirely new game for them, or it's an entirely new role for them to play. And some are even asking questions, for example, can I also provide GPU as a service? Right. And this is a very interesting question because part of the next set of roles that we do play is in some cases talking them out of it, in other cases giving them a path forward for how to get there. Some of them have taken that path forward. Others essentially understand, yep, we know where our role is at this time. They may pivot again in about a year. But at this point in time, most of it is advisory. We will eventually, as they build these out, we will also play a role in building out the infrastructure, the compute, the networking, and the storage with inside these data centers. But on at the onset, it's usually advisory. If I look backwards, if I answer that question from the backwards component, um, AI is generating a lot of interest, and right, and so and because of that, energy companies are trying to find their place within these AI markets, and the tokenization economics of AI are such that I believe companies, perhaps what are called neo clouds or hyperscalers, are actually going to bring energy companies more into the mix. In other words, 5 years down the road, I can't understand how a company who's offering tokenization of AI can be in business without having the benefit of controlling the upstream power and energy that it takes to operate these data centers. So it's almost like they're being pulled in to this, whether or not they like it or not. But I think in many cases, they're going to find the revenue streams very interesting in the upcoming years. But because it's AI is driving it, and AI is essentially saying we need to control the power and the energy upstream to be able to make better economic decisions for how we sell the tokenization of AI. There's certainly no shortage of interest. I don't have to convince them otherwise that the data center game or the act of being part of the AI workload and tokenization of AI economics is something of interest. That they definitely see. I think what we have to do typically is make it real for them. In other words, what are the realities of how to get from here to here, right? From being able to just provide that BTU gas, which they know everything about, to actually getting into GPU as a service. How do you also optimize GPU and CPU chipsets? This is not their bread and butter today. Right. So, do they look at new resources, new capabilities, new business models to get there? Some will say yes. Others will probably say, we are fine with just providing the infrastructure. We are fine with perhaps being a landlord to tenants that want to purchase that sort of AI capability or the energy for AI token economics. And for the most part, they may be happy with that. But it's real interesting. I do see that many energy companies are probably going to shift to say we would like more revenue streams from data. As they do with recurring revenue from oil and gas, data may be the new oil.